Time to check out a Stan Kraychik mystery, Book 5. Author, Grant Michaels. Publisher, St. Martin's Press, New York, 1996. Narrator, Eric Aust. Chapter 14. I decided to drive that evening to avoid the tangle of tourists and traffic that crowded Duval Street, even off-season. I took Whitehead Street all the way across town to Ken Kimball's place, on the east end of the island. At one point along the way, I saw my anonymous admirer in the pink taxicab approaching from the opposite direction, but he passed me without pause or toot. Our mutually unrequited romance had already expired. I found Ken's place easily, like pretty maids all in a row. 12 snazzy new convertibles were parked neatly in the shade along the high walls surrounding his compound. All 12 ragtops were down. Any fabric boots had been fastidiously stretched and snapped into place. It was certainly a tidy group of guests in attendance that evening. I parked the Alpha at the end of the row, making an even baker's dozen. As I walked to the entrance, I realized the whole compound had the rare Key West feature of a 10-foot wall, all stone and mortar, surrounding its entire perimeter. Privacy was ensured. I pressed the doorbell firmly. A few minutes later, the heavy wooden door was pulled open by the host himself, Ken Kimball. He wore only a towel around his waist, and he was talking on his cellular telephone. I'd guessed right about him, working out a lot. His chest and shoulders were well developed, the muscles dense and defined, yet oddly unsexy, as though they had been applied to him rather than being part of an organic whole. Ken motioned me in, then quickly locked the massive wooden gate behind us. He led me along a serpentine stone path that curved its way toward the big house. From behind, I saw that Ken had managed to escape the accumulation of midriff flab common among middle-aged men. His broad torso tapered to a youthful waist and slim hips. I watched his firm butt moving under the towel. Again, it should have been sexy, but it wasn't. Maybe it was because the man himself was so removed from the moment. All that time he was murmuring monosyllables into the cell phone. The house itself was a grand old place, like something from the antebellum South. It was painted white with black shutters. A broad columned portico ran along 3 sides of the building. As we ascended the front steps, Ken concluded his phone call. Then he turned all his attention onto me. "I'm really glad you came," he said. "I rarely miss a chance for something new." "Good," said Ken. "Let's go through the house. Everyone is out back by the pool." We passed quickly through the foyer, and I caught glimpses into the outer rooms. One thing was clear. Ken Kimball really did collect art. Every wall in every room was covered with it. Even works by art world bad boys like Mark Tansey and Jeff Koons and Bruce Nauman. "I buy things before an artist is discovered," he boasted. "I like to think I help establish them." If he had really bought all that art before the rest of the world had jumped on the wagon, then his ventures had already paid off handsomely. I said, "Is that why you want some of Jerry Takir's work?" Kimball said, "When she simmers down, I'll approach her again." "You may have to wait," I said. "She's in jail now." The news seemed to startle him. "On what grounds?" I hesitated before saying, "Murder." "They think she killed Augusta Willits." "No," I said. "They think she killed Adolf Doberman." Ken Kimball's face went blank, as though he'd flipped a switch to halt any neurofacial activity that might betray his real reaction. Then he said, "That was the German fellow, right?" "Right," I said. Kimball ruminated a while, then he put down the cellular telephone and readjusted his towel, flaring it open long enough for me to get a good look at him. And that's when I realized he had cultivated his body to serve merely as a magnificent proscenium for nature's generosity to him. "No tan line," I said. Ken smiled and covered himself with his towel. "Shall we join the party?" He led me further toward the back of the house. We arrived at a large open room with 2 mirrored walls and 2 others entirely of plate glass. The glass walls faced out onto the pool and the surrounding gardens. He said, "You can leave your clothes in here." But I hardly heard him. I was too astonished by what I saw outside. It was like a photo shoot for intercontinental mail, with fabulous young male bodies cavorting everywhere, except they were all naked, and not kind of naked, really naked. There was a lot of laughing and fooling around, too, everyone slick and wet. Some of the guys were half hard, some had happy, healthy prongs. Around the pool sat older men lounging languidly with towels draped over their drooping flesh. I said, "It's a Saturnalia." "Yes," said Ken proudly. "A movie that can't be made. I was lucky to find this place when I did. The masonry wall around the compound was built long before the new zoning laws, which make it illegal to build anything that high now. When I bought the place, I got it declared a landmark. Now the town can't force me to lower the wall to comply with the new restrictions." "And without that wall, you couldn't host gatherings like this," I said. "Obviously," replied Ken. He pointed to a stack of clean white towels, which seemed to be the limit of fashion for him and the older men around the pool. "You don't have to use one," he said suggestively. And then he gazed out over the poolside festivities and said dreamily, "They really are beautiful, aren't they?" I said, "From that peek I got earlier, you can be proud of your body, too. Shameless hussy flatters hunky host." Ken said, "A good body is a lifetime project. I work hard to create this." He ran his right hand over his left breast, grabbing the smooth, firm flesh, then fingered small circles around the nipple. He faced me with a glowing smile. I said, "How are your wife and kids?" His mouth dropped open slightly, but he quickly retrieved the smile. "They're on holiday," he said lightly. "So are you, from the looks of it." Then Ken Kimball spoke to me seriously, as if from his heart. "I used to enjoy provoking people," he said, "just the way you do. And then I learned to own and heal my truest self, and my life became much better. My wife and children accept the diversity of my personal needs," which probably wasn't too difficult from a posh flat in Kensington. Ken went on. "Ever since I found the courage to admit my frailties, everything I touch comes alive with success." "Maybe someday you can tell me how you manage that." "That would be a pleasure," said Ken. He headed toward the door leading to the pool deck. "Take your time undressing," he said with an eager grin. "We'll watch from outside." And then he left me alone in the changing room. The party frolic continued in and around the pool, with the laughs and squeals of pleasure and the big splashing lumps all muffled by the 2 walls of heavy plate glass. I looked beyond the pool full of slippery wet bodies and saw Ken talking on the phone again. I wondered if he ever participated, or did he host the parties to entertain himself? Live porn? To watch and to titillate while remaining oddly chaste on the phone. I began removing my clothes and turned to face the 2 mirrored walls, which put my back to the audience outdoors. I happened to glance up into my own eyes in the mirror, and I wondered, is this me, about to strip and join an orgy in progress? And why not? Finally, I was thin enough to show my body in public without shame, and I was single again and feeling very lonely. It would be a new experience. Finally, I could let myself go in utter sexual abandon with no regard for the other person. Except that he or they were there. At that hour of the day, even the sun couldn't burn my sensitive skin. I had no excuse. My slacks and shirt were off. It was time for the breeze. I took a deep breath. You live only once, I told myself. Then as I pulled them down, I turned halfway around and looked outside again. Maybe it was the odd twist angle of my head or the delirium of being caught bare-assed on stage, but all I saw out there was a bunch of rich older men fondling a bunch of young, vibrant ones. I looked in the mirror again, into my own eyes, and I realized I just couldn't do it. Just couldn't put myself out there naked with the rest of them. I pulled my clothes back on, and nobody seemed to notice. With no reason to be on the outdoor deck, I wandered back into Ken's house. One of the display rooms for Ken's collection had an open space along one wall, as though a painting had been taken down, or else something was going up that hadn't arrived yet. There was a desk in there, too, and a window that faced out onto dense shrubbery. No one could see me, so I went over to have a look at the desk to see what kind of day-to-day business a big-time actor and art collector conducted in Key West. It turned out to be mostly junk mail. Even the wealthy weren't immune to the deluge of trash delivered daily to their doors. And then I saw an envelope containing what looked like Polaroid photos. My fingers itched to have a peek at Kim Kimball's extra secret life, the one that even a poolside orgy didn't reveal. I was surprised to find that all the photos were various exposures, some dim, some of a bright, some just right, of Jerry Takir's painting, Dinner of Uncertainty, the very one I'd seen in the Crow's Nest office, and then at the police station. What was Ken Kimball doing with them? Looking for skeletons, he said from the doorway. I think I found one. Where's the painting now, Ken? You told me the police have it. I told you they had Jerry Takir. How did you get it, Ken? Did you steal it from the Crow's Nest? He hesitated. No, I didn't. He came into the room and took the photos for me. But I did go to the Crow's Nest the morning. I wanted to reason with Augusta. I wanted her to stop her loathsome pursuit of Peter's estate. Loathsome? You had a personal interest, Ken. You were going to inherit half the Gulf Coast Theater with Edsel Sham. That certainly gave you a good reason to kill Augusta. He laughed nervously. If I killed Augusta, he said, it would hardly be for a piece of property. Then what would you kill her for? Hate? Love? Ken's nervous smile stopped, and his chisel-featured face relaxed as though he was off camera and could be himself. Your instincts are unsettling, he said. I did hate her. And you loved her son. I loved him, yes, said Ken. It sounded like a confession. I sensed he might talk to me on the subject of love. Most of my clients trusted me in that department, too. Go on, I said. It wasn't the kind of love you mean. What kind is that? There was no sex, said Ken. I felt a familial, an eternal kind of love for Peter. It was pure and clean. Sounds lovely, I said. Where did Augusta fit in? She sensed Peter's desire. What about yours? I told you, there was no sex. I didn't want to jeopardize my marriage. Not then. So, who decided to refrain from sex? You or Peter? Ken said, why is that so important? Because sex changes everything, kid, even friendships. No matter how modern and sophisticated you try to be about it. Look, said Ken, all I wanted to do that morning at the Crow's Nest was persuade Augusta to give up her contest against Peter's will. But I didn't kill her. Honest. She was already dead when I got there. His features were strained again, and his brow furrowed. Can I trust you? He said. These things have been weighing so heavily on me. I must unburden myself. Do you understand? Ken was also rubbing himself against the edge of the desk, and the front of his towel was changing contour in a very obvious direction. He said, is this a sub rosa meeting of two adult men? If that's what you want, I said agreeably. The religious connotation he put on our discourse seemed to arouse him even more. Ken Kimball was certainly a case study for the psychosexual archives. He got hard at telling the truth. Ken said, Augusta had hurt Peter so much when he was alive, threatened him with hellfire and all the other nonsense of her beliefs. And then she let him die that disgraceful, horrible, lonely death. Why didn't you do anything about it? I tried. I tried to convince the doctor to put Peter on a morphine drip. We all did. But as next of kin, Augusta held the power of attorney over Peter's death. Didn't he have a living will? Ken let out another nervous laugh. Peter never believed he was going to die, poor soul. That's why he was so grandiose in his will. He never thought it would be executed, and there was no reasoning with him about it. So when the time came to decide how to treat his failing health, it was in his mother's hands, and Augusta quietly determined that her son had to pay for his sins, and so would everyone else he knew. The sins of the world visit upon her only begotten son. Ken glared at me. "I'm sorry," I said. "Who else was there at the end?" "None of us were allowed to be with Peter when he died, but Cozy was at the hospital a lot, and so was..." Ken stopped himself, the same way Cozy had done on the outdoor deck at the pier house earlier that day. "Who?" I said. "Who was the other person?" "I can't tell you," said Ken. "I gave my solemn oath to Peter on his deathbed." "Was it a lover? A child?" "Don't press me, please," said Ken. "The relief of telling you these few things is so great, I'm afraid I might slip and say more, and I swore to Peter I wouldn't tell, to my death." "It sounds like your connection with him was more than familial love." And the phrase, "over my dead body," took on new meaning. Let's go back to the painting, then. How'd you get it?" "Someone gave it to me." "Don't look at me that way. It's the truth. That's what you want, isn't it? The truth?" "Yes," I said. "But who gave it to you?" "I can't tell you." "You mean you don't know? Or you won't tell?" Ken looked at me desperately, but said nothing. "Did it just magically fall into your hands?" Still no answer. "Okay, then. How did the painting get from her back to Jerry Takir's gallery?" "I can't tell you that either," said Ken. "Why not?" "Because I don't know for sure." "Any ideas?" Ken shook his head remorsefully. "I'm sorry, but I can't say anything more without implicating someone else. Meanwhile, an innocent person is in jail." "I'm sorry," said Ken. "At least she's safe there." His confession was apparently finished, for his towel had returned to a more irregular contour. Then Ken left me alone in that room. Apparently, he felt I was more trustworthy after he confided in me. That often happened at my other confessional, too. The styling chair. The strange thing about Ken Kimball's story was, I almost believed it, and I hadn't laid a finger on his hair. As I was leaving the compound to return to my car, one droopy old gent in a towel stopped me along the path and said, "Are you taking that nice pink body away from us? You're not shy, are you?" Yes," I lied. I even managed to demure blush, which only encouraged the man. I looked back over the swimming pool and deck and the lush gardens surrounding them, too. Ken was on the phone again, and when he saw me leaving, he made a frantic motion for me to stay. I gestured back, pointing to my wristwatch. I found my way out of the compound. The latch on the heavy outside gate closed itself securely behind me, and Ken Kimball's secret world was once again safe from intruders. Gay Mysteries audiobooks. I think it is easy to hate a label, but a face humanizes the word. So this effort is twofold: to offer comfort to those like myself that your world didn't end because you don't fit into the view of acceptable society on both sides, and in hopes of helping those with family that are LGBTQ, that it doesn't mean we are aliens from the child they once knew. Reassure them so they can maybe be supportive at the same time, being true to their values.